Okay, so what I have here is I have an evacuation system built in with my positioning system. Is it fairly easy to move up the pole? Yeah, I got to use what's called a kind of a hitchhike method a little bit. But what this allows me to do is I can actually slide this up. As I sit back into this, what do I now have? An anchor point, right? If it hits the fan, what can I do? I can get out of there. I'm tied in, okay? The way that this works, I have a small ring on this side, large ring on this side, and in between the two rings, I want to keep about an 8-inch difference. 6 to 8 inches, they say. If the rings come too close together, what happens? It's not going to grab the pole. If they're too far apart, I'm going to have a lot of friction to deal with, right? I don't know how crazy I am about these European gaffs here. Kind of throw you. They put you in kind of an awkward angle. All right, so I'm going to come up. I'm going to move just below Joe's feet. Slide my climbing system up. Right? Now I'm anchored off here. Now, because I'm anchored off here, I'm going to transition over Joe's feet. Right? How am I going to transition over Joe's feet? I'm clipped in. I never want to be unsecure. Simply going to go right over and clip right back in. Okay? The other thing, if I'm worried about really spurring out on this pole, if I'm really worried about having a pretty good slip, okay, there's a technique that I can use that basically, if I run this around like so. Sorry, Joe.
It's okay, I'm unconscious, don't worry.
Okay, what I've now done is I've created a choking system with my lanyard. But the nice thing about it is I can open it up and I can still step it up a little bit higher as well. So when I sit back on this, even if I should slip now at this point, what's my lanyard going to do? It's going to choke, simply by the way I wrap it. Now I'm not taking a full wrap, I'm taking and I've made a half hitch on there. If you can't see it, you can come around to the back side here to see it a little bit better. It allows me to choke right on, okay? So I'm going to move this right up because I want to always be protected in case of a fall. I always want to be fall protected, right? With just a lanyard, am I truly fall protected? No, okay? This is a huge debate going on in the utility world right now. They're really trying to transition over to wood pole fall protection, some type of choking system, right? By simply weaving your lanyard like this, you can achieve the same thing. Now, I've gotten as high as I can. I've choked my lanyard. I now have to disengage my climbing system, right? Because I'm tied in with a traditional system, is this going to take a little bit? Yeah. I'm just going to need to untie this, put that rope there. This is where a split tail really excels because what do I not have to do? I don't have to undo all these knots. But I just want to demonstrate that it is certainly possible. Right? I'm going to pull this out, and I want to make sure that I can get this above both me and Joe. But because my lanyard is choked, I am still fall protected as I transition over. All right, you want to make sure you consider that. So now I'm just going to weave this back through. All right, put my snap back on. And tie my bowline back on as well.
Why the half hitch and the steel core and not just 2 wraps?
The half hitch is so I can continue to move it up if I need to. What I can do by simply loosening it, I can open up that space, make it bigger. Whereas the 2 wraps, it still wants to squeeze in. I have to kind of work my fingers in and pull it back. So once I get tied in here, I'll demonstrate what I'm talking about. So and then a Blake's hitch, 1, 2, 3, 4 wraps. Up and through. The split tail too just takes a lot of the guesswork out. You don't have to worry about dropping stuff. You don't have to worry about loading the right side. You can color coordinate your climbing system and identify pretty quickly and pretty easily what part is what. So now I'm anchored in, right? Because the pole's getting a little bit smaller in size. This pole isn't dry rotted at all. Alright, I'm going to kind of step back into this, make sure this can hold my weight. Yep, we're good there. Okay. With this system, with the choking lanyard system, you can see as I pull in on this, good example, actually spurred out. Okay, I can make that loop bigger or smaller pretty easily. And I can still kind of hitchhike it up. It's not the same as flipping it. It's called more of a hitchhiking technique. But once you start to use that and just kind of play around with it a little bit, it works pretty effectively. So now I'm back into my climbing system here. And if he's taking the top out of the tree, if he's at this point, we might be as high as we can go. I might not be able to get it up any higher. I'm going to slide this up just a little bit. How much space do you guys typically leave in? Say you're blocking down the top. How much space do you leave in between where you're tied in and where the actual block is? How much space do you guys typically have at the top of the tree here?
6 inches.
How much?
6, 8 inches.
Keep it as close as you can? Oh, leave as much as you can? That you do want to leave as much as you can. Traditionally, and what I used to think in the past, right, is I thought, boy, I want to have that space as small as possible because I'm trying to limit my distance to fall. What really affects and changes your distance of fall is how big the piece is. How big is the piece center of mass? By changing this anchor point even 8 to 10 inches, it doesn't affect the distance to fall at all, right? Hardly any. So now I'm anchored in. Make sure that conduit's going to hold. We're good. Okay, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to kind of check Joe out and see how he's doing there. How you doing, Joe? Good. He's doing good. He's looking all right. Okay. First thing I want to do, because right now, is Joe fall protected? What's the only thing that's protecting Joe from falling? My lanyard. That's it, right? If he gaffs out or he spurs, or his spurs don't hold, right, he's headed down real quick. So I'm going to girth hitch a prusik on here, and I'm going to get around to the side. I want to hard lock off to him as quickly as I can. The other nice thing about the choking friction saver is we can change the position of it on the trunk. I'm going to take hard lock into him. I'm going to try to spin this out as much as I can. Anchor that off nice and tight. Kind of get myself down in here nice and snug. Alright, so now he's hooked to me. However, he's still on his spurs. Right? If I can create some type of overhead for him, I'm going to do so. And the way I'm going to do that, he's got a climbing line on him. Why not use it? Okay? I'm just going to take and tie a bowline on here. Choke that off. And I'm going to slide this right around the back side of the stem and just choke it right off there nice and smooth. Now, by using his hitch, I can just help support me in the rescue just a little bit. Load that up there nice and smooth, right? So now I'm going to come down a little bit more. Again, we're hooked together. I'm going to take and release, kind of pull in his spur. And as I pull in this spur, he's going to kind of rock towards me. There we go. Okay, at this point, I'm going to take and pull in his other spur. Kind of rock him right around. All right, let me bring myself down just a little bit there. There we go. All right, how you doing? Good. You all right? Okay. You okay? All right, he's good. That's good. Okay, I'm going to leave his lanyard on there. I'm going to take my lanyard and bring it back around. And at this point, before I start bringing him down, because we are going to be coming down in kind of a tight space, if I can, again, we don't want to become a second what? Victim. What is now a huge hazard to me as a rescuer? His what? His spurs. Absolutely. Even my spurs. Right? If I can, I'm going to try to get his spurs off. So he's anchored up on his hitch. I'm going to come down just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm going to leave my spurs on just to kind of guide it. He's hanging here. I'm going to go ahead and remove his spurs.
Watch your electrical house, you don't punch that too fine.
Yeah. That's why we're taking the spurs out. Okay, stand clear on the ground. Just going to toss these down onto the rope bag. Joe's going to give me a hand there. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, sir. And stand clear on the ground. If you guys would you mind just pulling those spurs right out of the way? And if I could get a hand, if you guys would actually take and grab this climbing line, I'm going to need just an assist on the belay to help lower both me and Joe down. Before I get too far, I'm going to take and upright him with his lanyard, just so he doesn't get really tossing around a whole lot. Bring this around and anchor it right up onto his climbing system there. Then tighten that right up like so. How's that, Joe? Pretty comfy, not too bad. And bring his arms in there, nice and smooth. Yep. Okay. Now at this point, we're both anchored off. I'm going to take and clip again my snap above his hitch, and just pull this in nice and snug. Tighten this up just a little bit, right? Okay, so now we can safely guide both of us down to the ground. I'm anchored off on the adjustable friction saver. His line is choked above my line, right? Or it could be even at the same level. I'm going to safely bring us both down here, okay? If you would, just hold right onto that mic. I'm just going to take and break Joe's hitch just a little bit. Might need to get some weight back into it. Nope, that's all right. Okay. And this can happen. You can really load that hitch up. There we go. Nice and smooth. Okay, if you guys could, would you mind kind of taking the lines? I'm going to leave it kind of looped underneath my arm. You guys come on right on over here. We're going to take a look as we bring me and Joe down to the ground. Take and try to walk us right back over there and just pull on the lines kind of back off to the side. How you doing there, Joe?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. Okay. There we go. And hang on, let me just pop this out of Joe's carrot tool so it doesn't break Joe's carrot tool. Alright, come on right on over here, guys, so you can take a look. I'm going to leave Joe kind of up in the air there just a little bit, but still somewhat comfortable. Joe, can you go ahead and spin right around to the side there? You can take a look, but still lean, as long as you're comfortable. Okay? So the only real extra thing that I had a prusik to hard lock me into Joe, right, and the adjustable friction saver up top. That is the absolute critical thing you need to create an overhead tie-in point. Either an adjustable friction saver or some type of choking system that allows you to anchor off to the stem to safely bring both you or a victim down to the ground. Is this pretty traditional system? This more typical of what you guys would deal with? Takes a little bit of finesse. You got to tie and untie the knots. But is this something, you know, the gear that we have here on me as the rescuer, is this what you typically be climbing with?
Like his other one.
Just an extra cross stick and a snap? Question, yes.
What hitch are you using there for single line, full body weight?
The hitch that we're using here, single line full body weight, that is a VT. And the primary function of that hitch is to just basically assist. I took up most of the weight with my Blakes, right? And so all we're doing is guiding that down. We're really splitting Joe's weight and my weight between the two hitches. Traditionally, you don't want to run a hitch on a single line like this. Why?
It'll bind up and you'll never get it off.
As you can see, right? What happens to it? It locks up real hard, right? So here we're just using it as a backup. I'm hard locked into Joe with my Prussic, right? And so we're just kind of tending down with the Blake's hitch there and just using his hitch as a backup. Yes.
So with your hard lock there to his swivel, was
Yep.
he down below you a bit until he'd be loading your blue?
His hitch was kind of skidding along. I was down. I was a little bit below him. But
That's-
if I could collapse his hitch fully, which I could have, you know, just pulling on it enough, then his